Can a tax lien prevent you from buying a house? Well, welcome back. Now, in this episode, I'm going to answer your question, can a tax lien prevent you from buying a house? Well, I've been involved in this business for a long time. I started back in 1970, and I converted myself over to foreclosures and tax liens and deeds a number of years later. But I was really specialized in tax liens and tax deeds as an investor first, and then I slowly became a coach and a guide and helped people over the last 25 years or so. So the question comes up, can you purchase a home with a tax lien? So the real question that's asked here online always is, can a tax lien prevent you from buying a house? Well, there's no reason for it to prevent you from buying a house. That's really the answer up front. But if you found the perfect house for you and you have it under contract and you discover that it has a tax lien, well, you don't have to get too upset about it because properties have liens on them all the time. So you can actually purchase that house with a lien on it, but what will happen is they'll actually pay the lien off before you actually take control and get the deed to the property. So investors have been doing this for decades. The title companies and the banks understand it, and you'll have a complete understanding before we finish. So hang in there for just a minute or so, and I'll get right to that. I'll be right back. Okay, can a tax lien prevent you from buying a house? Well, prior to the auction, it's always good to read the rules and know what's going on. So we'll talk a little bit about those auctions, but I'm also going to tell a little bit about when you buy a property and there's a tax lien on the property. So how would you ever get a tax lien on a property? Well, the people you're buying from just haven't paid the taxes. Now, there might be a lot of reasons for that. They might have been sick or they might have been unemployed, whatever. So the state legislature makes the rules, and within the state, they allow the counties some leniency. By that I mean, people could actually not have paid the taxes, but still be living in the property. And now they're selling it so they can go start anew somewhere else. All right, so I'll tell you about the auction process, but I want to tell you also about how you can purchase that property with a tax lien on it, okay? So the county is going to follow rules that have been stipulated by the state. So they're just following the rules. Now, the same thing is going to happen to you. You're going to follow the rules that the bank and the title companies are going to require. So most of the title companies are going to say, we will not be involved with a property that has a lien on it unless the proceeds from the bank are going to clear the liens. In other words, they want you to buy the property with no liens on it. So what they'll simply do is when the proceeds come to the title company from the bank, all right, they have all the money they need. So before they pay anybody, they'll pay the tax. Then whatever's left, they will pay the seller of the property. That way the taxes were paid. All right, now, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not a CPA, and I'm not giving any legal advice, but I'm telling you, their title company and the bank are not going to let a transaction take place unless the lien is paid off. So if the bank is bringing in $100,000 and the tax is $1,000, well, that's fine. They've got $100,000, they'll pay the tax, and then the other $99,000 will pay not only their expenses, but will pay the seller of the property. So the question that was in front of us today is, can a tax lien prevent you from buying a house? Well, the answer is, actually, it's not going to prevent you in any way at all. All you have to do is pay it off. So the bank and the title company will do that in the part of the purchase, or if you're purchasing the property, you'll have to pay it off to clear the title. In other words, that lien was on the title. You could call that a cloud on the title. In other words, it's raining on the title. All right, so what you do is you pay it off, and now you've cleared the title. So you kind of get the idea. Now, I don't know who you are or how many of these deals you're going to do, but the laws across the United States are in place to protect the homeowner. All right, so the state will make all the rules, okay? So the legislature is going to make the rules, and if it's not clear, you need to get the rules so that you know what's going on. So this could happen in foreclosure, this could happen in the tax lien and deed business. I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you legal advice, but if you don't know the answers, most of the counties will have an attorney, so you could ask there. If you can't get it from the attorney, go to the library. The library will have the statutes. The statutes are nothing more than the rules for that state and for that county. All right, so no one's trying to keep you from learning this. My point is the auction rules are clear. Okay, if you have questions, ask the county attorney. If you don't get an answer there, go to the library and look up the statutes. Otherwise, spend some time, learn those rules. Don't be buying properties that have liens on them. The title company's going to go upside down, and you won't be able to get a clear title, and the bank isn't going to lend on any property that's that way. All right, so if you're attempting to buy a house and you're wondering what's going to happen, don't worry about it. If it's got a lien on it, the lien can be cleared before the transaction and moves all the paper. All right, now the rules stipulate from the county exactly what's going to happen before you can purchase a property. All right, so those rules need to be followed. Are they going to be difficult? No, they're not going to be difficult at all. Just understand, you'll have to pay it, or the bank will have to pay it, but they probably won't transfer the title until that's clear. Nothing difficult about that. Nothing difficult. All right, so in keeping it simple, let me tell you a little bit what really happens at these auctions. So before the auction took place, the county had to do something. And what they basically did is that the people didn't pay the tax, and it's a tax lien state. They just slapped the hand of the person and said, look, you haven't paid your taxes, so we're going to sell the taxes to somebody else. And that's exactly what they do. They sell the taxes to someone else. All right, they let the people stay in the property. So what are people going to do? Well, if they're unemployed, they're going to try and get a job. If they're sick, they're going to try and get healthy. If they're not going to recover at all and it's a divorce or whatever, they're going to stay in the house, and they're probably going to try and sell it. Now, that may be the house you're looking at. You're trying to buy it, and it has a tax lien. All right, no problem. The proceeds from your loan or from your checkbook are going to clear that title. So they're not going to be a problem for you to do that. Now, what else is going to happen? Well, the state has taken action. In other words, the legislature has told the county, sell that property at auction. So that means there's a clock ticking. So while the clock is ticking, the people should be trying to sell the house. If they're selling it and you're buying it, all the problems are over. If they're not selling it and it's not getting done, they're ultimately going to lose that property to the person that owns the tax lien certificate. Not a complicated process, okay? The transfer will take place from the person that owns the certificate. In other words, the people that own the property, they're going to lose it to the people that own the certificate. Now, if you come in and pay it, well, then you got the chance you can go ahead and buy the house. So you're kind of getting the idea. All right, is this difficult? It's not, but all the closing agents will understand it. The attorneys will understand it. You're not going to buy a property with a lien on it. All right, if there is a lien on it, that means that the title has a cloud on title. In other words, there's something wrong that has to be cleared. All right, this is not unusual on real estate to find other loans on the property, to find judgment liens where somebody didn't pay a bill. There could be all kinds of things on a property that could be cleared, but they're not going to keep you or prevent you from buying one of those properties. Okay, so I'm about to finish up on this, but I'm going to take two questions before I go. Is tax lien certificate purchasing the same in all the states in the county? No, it's actually not. The tax lien laws are universal. They're all basically the same. But the counties, they interpret them differently. So whenever you're going to buy a tax lien certificate, you can find, like in Baltimore, one county is selling the certificate and you can earn 12%. And right next door, just down the street and around the corner, is another county and they're selling a tax lien and it would be 24%. So you can see it, there can be that much of a difference. How they conduct the auction is going to be different. So none of this is scary. All you have to do is go to the county website and then download the rules, and then you'll know what to do. Okay, what happens when the next year's taxes aren't paid? All right, the next year's taxes should be paid by you because the property owner is in default. Now, you should pay both years at the same time, but you don't have to. You can just pay 1 year, and then someone else can pay another year. But you bought the first lien, so you're first in time and first in place. Now, the two tax liens are owned by different people. You guys can get together and sell each other your lien, whatever you want to do, but the first tax lien is the first tax lien, so that won't change. Okay, time for me to button it up. For those of you that have listened to me before, you know I always talk about two mistakes. If you are going to go to an auction, make sure you've looked at the property. You know, we always tell people in the tax lien and deed business, you know, you can buy online, so you want to be careful. You want to make sure you've gone out and looked at the property because maybe it burned down and maybe there was a big flood. And by the same token, when you go to a foreclosure auction, you want to make sure that you've got an exit strategy. People forget about that. They get a bargain, and then it costs them so much to fix it up that it's no longer the bargain. Listen, you can't sell it. If you buy a bargain, you better make sure it's a bargain when it comes for sale. I'm Ted Thomas.